Great to be back doing these orientation presentations, even if not in person. So hope everyone is having a great start to the summer. My name is Josh Fromm. I have my colleague Kayla, who will be presenting on financial literacy. So how it's going to work today. We'll kind of go back me first, and then I'll send it off to Kayla, and she'll kind of finish this up. If you have questions, we're going to have some time at the end, so you can type your questions in the Q&A, and we'll make sure to answer them for you. Kayla, give a wave to the audience. There we go. So we're both, it looks like, working from home, as you can imagine here, but definitely pumped to get back in the flow of things in the fall. So today, talking a little bit about our student employment programs on campus. So again, my name is Josh Fromm. I work for the Pomerantz Career Center here in campus, the Associate Director of Student Employment Programs. So I think one of the things that I want to get across today to you is just how student employment works on the University of Iowa campus, and that we do more than just help your student find a job. So obviously, we know the basics for most students. Hey, if they want to work, or if you want to put your student to work, it's primarily for them to make some money, right? And that's absolutely a big part of it. And we'll talk a little bit about what they can expect with regards to wage and that type of stuff today. But we want the experience for students that work on campus to be much more than that. And we've created some programs here at the university to help make that a reality. And we've seen these be successful over the last 7 or 8 years. The program I run through the Career Center, it's called UI STEP, stands for Student to Employed Professional. So we actually have a number of different things that we do specifically for our student workforce and the supervisors that support these students to try to make the experience as beneficial, engaging, and kind of future building as much as we possibly can. We don't want them to just go to their job, they do what they got to do, and they go home and get their paycheck. That's the bare minimum. We want the job to mean a little bit more. We want to help them understand, how do you become a great employee? How do you prepare for your future career through this stop in a part-time job? So through our developmental approach, we offer programs specifically just for our student employees on campus. So we do offer a career development course that's a 2-credit-hour full semester graded course called UI STEP. So we'll tackle everything from resumes to cover letters to job searching. We talk a ton about how employers that hire students and hire graduates and hire interns even think about student employment experience and part-time work. And we talk a lot through that course about how to leverage that experience. So how do you take your work experience from an on-campus job, put it into your resume, talk about it in an interview? So we do a number of those things in that course, and that's only offered for our students who are workers on campus. So we've had, over the last 6 or 7 years, about 300 students that have taken that course. It's been very successful. We do offer, and obviously they have other things going on with as far as course requirements. So we do offer what we call our workforce development sessions. So if your student has a job on campus, more than likely their employer will send them to one of these sessions. They're kind of one-off sessions, but I'll offer them usually about 6 to 8 times a semester. They're about an hour and a half. And we talk specifically in that about workplace professionalism, workplace etiquette, how to stand out. I talk a lot about my past experience as a supervisor with young professionals, and how there's a difference between meeting and exceeding expectations, and what does that look like on a job? How can you get into really positive workplace habits in your part-time job that are going to carry over? And again, we talk a lot about how does employers who are going to be doing the hiring in your future, for internships, full-time jobs, even for grad school admissions, how are they going to look at your experiences while a student? And how can you sell those experiences? So we talk a little bit about that. And one of the goals is to just get them to understand whether the job is within their field or not. They are gaining very valuable experiences that future employers are going to care about. So we spend a number of hours there, a couple hours in those sessions. The students will get paid for those as if it's part of their job. So that's another thing that we do on top of the course. If they're not able to take the course, which they could take at any time over their 4 years, but those workforce development sessions will help us kind of reach a little bit of a bigger audience. So always excited to do those, get great participation from the students. They get a chance to talk to other students that are working across campus and whatnot. We also offer training for our supervisors. We have 1,300 supervisors of students on our campus. So, if any of you have been a supervisor before, a lot of times, and I know this happened for me personally, a lot of times how it works is you're good at your job and then they promote you to a supervisor and say, all right, here's 15 people to supervise. And it can be a very difficult process and a difficult transition process. And for our supervisors on campus who do supervise your students, that student workforce is a very challenging workforce because they have a shelf life, right? They're here for 4 years. Even if you hire them as a freshman, they're part-time in nature. We understand that they're students first. So there are some challenges to that. So we offer our Supervising Today student series. It encompasses 9 workshops, and we have about 15 total, but we kind of interweave them and rotate them from semester to semester. So we've ran that for 6 years now and had over 2,200 supervisors attend over the course of that time. And one of the things I always tell people too about our supervisors, and I explain it to them during the series, is, whether they have it in their job description or not, they are teachers as well. Just like in the classroom, a student is learning in the workplace environment, and we want them to be learning from people who have had the training to be great mentors. And students do see their supervisors as mentors. A few years back, we started doing a supervisor of the year. We do a student employee of the year every year on campus. So we started about 4 years ago doing a supervisor of the year. So when I created it and created the nomination criteria, I sent it to our student workers via email. So I sent a little flyer out. So my expectations, basically all I wanted to do was congratulate a few supervisors and give them kudos for all the time they spend with students. I was expecting, I'm asking students to do extra work, right? So I'm expecting maybe 5, 10 max nominations. I had 94 nominations within 2 weeks. So one person wrote 7 pages about their supervisor. My winner 2 years ago had 13 of their student workers nominate them. So it's pretty clear when we're going through these how much the supervisors can mean to the workplace experience. So part of our goal in the Career Center and through the STEP program is to develop our supervisors so they're creating that great experience for your students. So just a little breakdown of campus employment at the University of Iowa. So we have both part-time and work study. I'm not going to explain work study in detail unless you ask me a question in the chat, because it's very confusing for some people, and frankly the term is a little bit outdated, but I'm happy to do that if need be. But I'll go through kind of some basics here. The big difference between part-time and work study is if your student has work study through FAFSA, okay, so it's a need-based program. If they're awarded through FAFSA, the employer is getting reimbursed half of up to, I think, $10.20, right? So, if it's a work study student compared to somebody who doesn't have work study, all else is equal, there's a good chance that employer will hire the work study student just for the simple fact that it makes financial sense and budgetary sense for them. There's a couple other student benefits as well with regards to that. That said, I would guess at this point, maybe 5% of our employers on campus, and we have 200 plus departments that hire students. I would guess roughly 5% are work study only. So if your student does not have work study, that absolutely does not mean they cannot work. Okay, there's plenty of jobs out there that are going to be part-time or work study. And when we start talking about Handshake, when they, in our job posting system, when employers post jobs, if it's work study only, they'll post that within the job posting. So overall, at any given time, we have 5,500 to 8,000 student employees. Even over this past year, with COVID and a lot of things being virtual, we were still around that 5,000 student employee mark. A lot of our jobs these days can be hybrid. Some are virtual only. Some are still in person. It really depends on the department and what their needs are. But I think as the last year and a half has gone on, our employers have been done a very good job of being creative and still providing students an opportunity to work and gain that experience. So the good thing about student jobs on campus is they're anywhere from 1 to 20 hours a week, and 20 hours a week is the max average that they can have. So, we'll get a lot of comments. Well, I'm apprehensive to have my student work right away. I want them to acclimate. The reality is they can work any type of hours. It's going to say on the job posting, but there's plenty of jobs that are 1 hour, 3 hour, 5 hours, 8 hours a week. So if they wanted to start slow and work their way up, they can absolutely do that. Most frequent wage that you're going to see on campus is $9.50. So we do a wage survey every year to figure that information out. The minimum wage at the University of Iowa that we use is $8.20. Honestly, there's very few that go to that level. So the most frequent is $9.50 with the average wage. And this honestly has been great because it's continued to go up a little bit. We're at nearly $12 an hour now as an average wage. So again, the wage is depending on the budget of the department, what type of work they're doing as well. So just like any other job that you would see. The one thing that I highlighted in bold there with work study, if it's work study or a part-time job, basically they're going to get paid the exact same way. So it's not going to get sent directly to tuition. It's going to be paid bi-weekly through direct deposit that the student sets up. So, a lot of students will use that as spending money. They'll use it to help with book payments. If you think about the overall cost of college, a lot of those things outside tuition, room and board are a part of that. Overall cost of attendance, transportation and whatnot. So students often use it for that, but that's a discussion that you can have with your student as far as planning ahead and taking action steps on what you want to do with that money. So if a student wants to find a job at Iowa, they use our system called Handshake. So the one great thing about Handshake is that students have the same system, whether they're looking for on-campus student employment, a local Iowa City job, an internship, a full-time job. We post jobs nationwide, so you have the ability to filter those out. We have 19,000 plus jobs posted right now, so obviously you want to use those filters, and it's fairly user friendly. Students have a pretty easy time with it, being as tech savvy as they are, but everything is on that one system. So they're going to use the same system their freshman year as they would their senior year, and even have access to it as an alumni as well. So I get asked a question too from students a lot of times. So, hey, I'm looking for a job on Handshake. What types of jobs are available? And my answer to that question is typically anything you can think of. So we have over 200 plus departments on the University of Iowa campus. We have our employers that hire a lot of students, your rec services, your housing and dining, your libraries, our IMU, Iowa Memorial Union hires a lot of students. But there are so many little departments on our campus that'll hire 1 student, 2 students, 4 students, tons of research jobs out there, research labs jobs, jobs at the hospital, things like that. So a lot of opportunities there. My thing, if parents will ask me or students will ask me, hey, how hard is it to get a job? And my answer is, it depends how picky you are, right? There are a lot of jobs out there. And utilizing Handshake and utilizing the filters correctly as they learn how to do that can help them identify those jobs quickly. Students already should have access over the summer. Once they're an official enrollee at Iowa, they should have access to the Handshake system using their Hawk ID and password. So I always encourage incoming freshmen, if they're interested in working, to start looking already now. So we're up to about 85 to 90 campus postings as of this morning, and that'll continue to increase as we get closer to the semester. And the beginning of the semesters are always the best time to apply because that's when the most jobs are going to be available. All right. Same thing at the beginning of the next semester, but fall is really the time where that's the strategy is best to get the jobs that you're looking for and to have the most options. So how to get started based on Handshake? It's very simple. They would upload a resume. It doesn't have to be the best resume in the world. We understand they're probably 18, 19 years old, but we do want them to get started. And I like the fact that we get them to do a resume early so that as they go on and gain that experience, they can continue to revamp it. They don't want to be like me and wait till 2 weeks before graduation to create a resume. That's not a good strategy, right? So Handshake, usually will force resumes to be submitted for most jobs. And we'll have resources at the end I'll talk about with the Career Center to help with that. So here's the scary part for parents, okay? Students are required to have I-9 document information. If they have a passport, that will work for both forms because it's got a picture on it. If they don't have a passport and they just want to use student ID or driver's license, they're also going to have to provide information such as a social security card or birth certificate. And this can't be a copy, it's got to be the real version. So that can be scary sometimes, so to put that valuable document in the hands of your students. So my suggestion, if they know they're going to be starting to work somewhere in the first week, as you drop them off to college and drop them off to the dorms or wherever, give them that information, have them take it to the HR person, get that on file, steal it back from them and put it back in your safe. All right. So just FYI, they will need that within 3 days of employment to continue to be employed. Overall, just to finish up before I pass it on to Kayla, there's always been this kind of misconception out there over the last couple of years, basically ever since I worked in student employment, that parents and students worry, well, if I'm working 10 hours a week, that's 10 hours that I can't be studying. And here's the story that I will tell you and that I tell students. I did not work my first 2 years at the University of Iowa. Okay. You know what I got really good at? PlayStation and naps. Okay. So the reality is, and if we talk to students, and I ask these questions at workforce development sessions, and I'll say, hey, how many of you think that your job has helped your academic performance? And almost everybody raises their hand, and I'm like, well, why? Logically, that doesn't make sense, right? That's 10 hours to be studying. Well, that's not exactly how it works, right? I think one thing to consider, even starting with a low hour load, if you're comfortable with that, is it helps provide structure for them. Since they were 3, 4 years old, whenever they first went to school, they have a schedule, they have places to go. They have school from 8 to 3, band practice, sports practice, whatever. Okay. And then they come home, they do homework, they eat dinner, bedtime, right? There's a very succinct schedule that they've had their whole lives. Then they come to college, over orientation, they're going to get their schedule and they're going to say, hey, Mom, I only have one class on Friday. Okay. The class is 50 minutes. What am I going to do for the other 16 hours that I'm awake? All right. So, oftentimes it helps continue to keep that structure for the students, give them a place to be, get them into positive habits and not procrastination habits, right? The campus, it really helps with the campus experience as well, as what we found. The campus engagement and involvement is really crucial. Feeling that sense of community is really important. And just, they're going to learn so much through orientation about, and you will as well, about campus resources and what we have available. It's impossible to remember everything. So, being involved on campus and being a part of the campus can help you be aware of more of those things. And from a future development, career development standpoint, these skills that they're learning, the transferable skills, are crucial. And every employer, no matter what their industry they're going into, is going to be looking for these skills, and work can help develop that as well. So we've really seen that increase in confidence, and not just that, we have the number kind of proof every year. We'll look at, hey, how many in our freshman class worked? How many didn't? How did one do versus the other? Every single year, and we've done this since 2005, our students have better year-over-year retention rates at work, better graduation rates. The GPA is, when you're talking about 4,000 students incoming, however many it is, when you have a 0.15 greater GPA in 2019, 2020, we're just getting the final data on that, but it's 0.19 for 2020. That's an incredible difference and an incredible positive number when it comes to that. So help is available with resumes. So there's a link there, information on UI STEP programs as well that I talked about today. Fall, we're looking to have our peer advisors. So students, usually sophomore through seniors, are open from 10 to 3 each day for walk-in hours. Your student can just walk into the Career Center and get the resume looked at. And then appointments are available via My UI as well. So I will pass it now on to Kayla and look forward to answering your questions at the end.
Thanks, Josh. My name is Kayla Strand. I work as a financial aid advisor in the Office of Student Financial Aid. So as Josh mentioned, the Career Services Career Center does more than helping students find a job. So we in financial aid, we do more than help your student get financial aid. So I just want to dive into a little bit of what we do here. Just need to get control. All right, thank you. So of course, we help with financial aid with your students. So just understanding general financial aid plan and going through loan repayment information. So we can help your student understand their financial aid offer. I know you've got the letter in the mail, so we are happy to talk through that with students, understanding what types of financial aid is available to students. There's a financial aid to-do list in My UI, so going through those steps needed to access financial aid, and then exploring any other resources there are that students might be able to access. Having a hard time advancing. Bear with me, thank you. All right, another aspect we can help students with is loan repayment, just kind of going through their options. So this definitely is financial aid related, but also part of the financial literacy that we can help with. So a lot of students do come to us wanting to start making payments while they're in school, so we can help them navigate that, know where they need to make payments, maybe some strategies for paying down their loans while they're in school. We can help students plan for graduate school, if loans are going to be starting repayment, or kind of projecting what their future payments might look like, including graduate level loans. And then just going through repayment strategies. I like to help students come up with goals for their repayment plans, whether it's trying to pay their loans off faster, like in 5 years versus 10 years, or if their goal is to pay like an extra $50 a month on their loans. We can also talk about repayment plans available. The government has a lot of options available, and it can be difficult to navigate. So we can help break that down and just discuss all of those options. And then with federal loans, there are a lot of loan forgiveness programs. So just talking through that depending on their career field. And another aspect that we do with students is loan counseling. So this is a very personalized meeting with students where we go through their projected borrowing for their undergraduate degree or graduate degree as well, and just kind of look at what the costs are and what their loans might look like for their 4 years or however long they're a student, what their estimated borrowing might be, and then again, what the loan repayment might look like for that. Just kind of want to help their future self and plan for their adulthood with loan repayment. I do want to note that anyone who's borrowing a private student loan, we do require a loan counseling meeting. So if anyone has a private loan, we send an email to the student telling them to schedule this appointment. All right, and then a little bit on financial literacy services. So like I said, we do more than financial aid. So we help students understand budgeting, credit, mostly those two. So we have a lot of resources for students available. So I think budgeting is a really important aspect. A lot of students might come to us and say, well, I'm a student, I have no money. That's really not the case. Hopefully they're taking advantage of Handshake and finding a job and working while a student, so we can help them kind of budget that paycheck or any financial aid that they might have. So all these resources are on our website. We have some Excel spreadsheets that we can help students track their spending and plan their spending for the month. Some other spreadsheets that we have are for on-campus living and off-campus living, and that helps you plan for the semester at a time. There we go, there they are. So those are on our website as well, on the financial aid website. And more commonly, we're going to see a lot of students wanting to use apps. So these are just a few examples of apps that we use. So Mint was one and Good Budget, I think, was the other one. And those are just apps that we use in our office. So we're familiar with them. They're free. I like free things. I don't want to pay someone to manage my money. So that's helpful. But I'm more than willing to sit down with the student and show them my budget and help them understand theirs. So I think that's a really important thing to work on. So here's a good example of why we think students should be budgeting, not only students, but everyone. I like to call these spending leaks. So these are little purchases you might make that don't really seem like a big deal, but they end up adding up over time, kind of get a little out of hand. So kind of like being in a boat with a hole, there's water flowing in, water leaking into your boat. So you want to try to plug your spending leaks so you don't sink and drown. So just some examples. We can go. All right, here we go. So there's Starbucks. I know, waking up for that 10 o'clock class can be pretty early. So you have to go get some coffee, go to Starbucks, it's really close, get the big one. So get that latte. It's only $4.25. You do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it's only $12.75. But if you think about the whole month, that might be $51. That's only for 3 days a week. Lunch downtown, you'll find there's a lot of great restaurants in Iowa City. So, even if you have a meal plan, you want to explore the restaurants, $8, that's a pretty good lunch price. But if you do that twice a week, you might end up spending about $64 on lunch downtown in a month. And then parking in the ramp, if someone lives off campus and they're driving to campus, and parking can get expensive, it can really add up. So in a month, you might spend $56 parking in the ramp. So without really thinking of it, you might have spent $171 that month. So I do like to take this a step further. So if you are using student loans, so anytime you have more financial aid than your bill, you get a refund. And sometimes this is student loans. So if you're using student loan money, you do have to pay that back someday, and you repay it with interest. So if you think of the interest that you pay on that loan for that item, so your Starbucks, instead of $51, now it becomes $74. Lunch becomes $92.80. And parking becomes more. There it is, $81.20. So I think that increases your spending by like $78 or so per month. And one step further, sometimes I'm a little mean with this, but your student, or you as the student, you're not just going to be here for 1 month, possibly 4 years. So if you're doing this every month for 4 years, that could be about $6,840 that you're spending. So hopefully you have a job to help pay for that. So visit Josh in the Career Center to find your job. Or if you're using a student loan, that's almost $10,000 that you're spending. So I'm not saying you can't spend money. It's just good to be aware of your spending habits, how you're spending money, where your money's going, working for your fun things like coffee and eating out instead of taking a loan for that. Yeah, we just want students to be aware and just kind of realize that impact of your habits early on. It's not too late to make changes, and it never is really. So we're also available for help. Our services are free to students, so they can schedule with a financial aid advisor. So through MyUI, you can schedule an appointment. It's the same way you schedule with your academic advisor. You'll get used to that. So just choose advising appointment and then financial aid in the drop down. So right now we can do phone appointments and Zoom appointments, and we'll be offering in-person soon. We also have our drop-in as well. Right now it's through Zoom. There's the little meeting ID. No appointment needed, Monday through Friday from 10 to 3. So definitely get in touch with us. Here's both of our offices' contact information. So send us an email, give us a phone call, and let us know what questions you have.
Yeah, thank you, Kayla. And a few in the Q&A chats. So if you have any other questions, though, we'll be sticking around for a little bit. So please let us know. Type them in the chat box if you have questions. I think the second one's for you from Jody, Kayla, but I'll take the first one. It talks about job opportunities in healthcare. So obviously, healthcare is pretty big at the University of Iowa with the hospital right across the river from the Pentecost. There are plenty of job opportunities at the hospital, as you can imagine. The one thing I tell students and parents is that there are jobs, but they're very, very competitive. So, and not every job is required to be posted on Handshake. And honestly, not all of them are, especially hospital jobs. Some are, but not all, because the reality is they don't have to advertise to get interest in their position. So, the one thing that I always will tell incoming freshmen is, and really everybody is who is interested in working over there, definitely keep an eye on Handshake consistently, apply quickly when there are jobs out there at the hospital, and then also look into volunteer opportunities at the hospital as well. If you're students in a healthcare profession and eventually plan to go to grad school or something like that, more than likely they're going to be having to have some volunteer hours as part of their experience, and even might need that as part of their program. And there's actually sometimes a wait list and an interview process for being a volunteer, and it's usually kind of first come first serve as well to get those opportunities. So you can check out the UI Healthcare website for information on that. But just to put in perspective, usually, like if I had an office assistant job, which is a very typical student job, and I don't mean to pick on the English department, but in the English department, they might get 8 applicants. If I put office assistant with the exact same job description, but it said UIHC in front of it, it would get 50 applicants, right? So those jobs are fairly competitive. A lot of times the jobs that are not posted, they're not posted because they recruit from their volunteer group first. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind for students that are pre-med or looking to gain experience at the hospital. And always good to get your foot in the door there. You want to tackle Jody's question, Kayla?
Yeah, so Jody's wondering if parents and students can meet with financial aid together. And yes, you can. So right now we're doing phone calls and Zoom appointments. So even if you're not living in the same household right now, I think Zoom would be a great option. So we have just one link that we send to the student, and your student can send that over to you. I've done a lot of meetings with incoming students and their parents, and it's been nice just to be able to see you, even if you're far away and can't come in person, which we're not doing right now. So yeah, absolutely, you can schedule together, or if it's a phone call, you can have your student three-way call you in, but definitely we can meet with both student and parents.
Great. And then this additional question posted, that's an excellent question. You have 2 kids going to school at the same time. They're eligible for work study. So basically work study will happen on a yearly basis. It'll have to be renewed through the FAFSA application. So for your student that's a sophomore, she's probably on a continuous appointment. Work study appointments basically need to be renewed every year. Continuous does not. So that student will want to let her employer know that she now has work study to take advantage of that. And it's important from a student's perspective, and not just an employer's perspective. Yes, they're getting reimbursed, but from a student's perspective, for instance, is it Lynn or Lene maybe? So basically, when you fill out the FAFSA application, you have the parents' income plus any student income. So any income that they make counts as part of the EFC score. With work study funds, like if they make $5,000 in work study, that's not going to count towards that total, if that makes sense. So that's one of the benefits of having a work study award for the student. Plus, she will not have to pay FICA taxes as well. So that's important to keep in mind as well. As far as a freshman, as far as reaching out to employers, basically that just means that they can apply to any job that they want, and they're going to be eligible for it. When the employer goes to hire your student, they're going to ask them to about work study, and if they don't, our systems, when they create the appointment, is going to say, hey, this student has work study, and they're going to fill out the appointment accordingly. So very little that your student has to do, the freshman anyways, on their end. Hope that makes sense. Really good questions though. Any final questions that anybody has? All right. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Again, our contact information is there. So if you have any additional questions, please reach out.